Hi, everybody. It's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace. I remembered a story when I was speaking with somebody this morning about eating, and we were looking at inquiry, looking at thoughts about food and eating and moments where we usually wind up eating or overeating or eating off balance in a way that we don't like. And I recalled this experience that I had long, long ago when my eating was like a roller coaster ride. I was even doing it really, really well and on track and on the train, on the even keeled train, or I was flipped completely off the train, off the rails, landed in the dirt, stuffing my face with food, and feeling completely and totally out of control. And it was very extreme. So extreme that I would even have bulimic episodes, as they call them, like stuffing, and forcing myself to vomit. But my weight also was a roller coaster. I was extremely thin in my early 20s, and then I went up, I don't know what the weight difference was, but a lot, like unrecognizable. The difference between how much I weighed and the difference between the two in that decade. The roller coaster of weight in and out, thoughts in and out, experience of eating in and out on a daily basis. So I'm in that mode. There is no inquiry. I don't know anything about questioning your thoughts. I just believed. I believed I should be thinner. I believed I ate like a pig. I believed I did it wrong. And I believed there was something wrong with me. My appetite was out of control, etc. Had all those thoughts running. Big story, and I went to a job interview, and this was in my 20s. It's like I had mostly been in school or had lots of part-time jobs, lots and lots of part-time jobs, tons of labor and working in many different sort of entry level industries. Really good at getting those kinds of jobs and really good worker. So here I am trying to get something a little more professional that paid just a little more. Maybe I could even live on my own instead of living at my parents' house. And I went to a job interview. And the job interview scared me half to death. I felt like I looked ugly. I still remember my haircut, I thought was absolutely hideous. And I definitely thought of myself as overweight and ugly, and like they would be seeing that and thinking it. Not a question in my mind that this is what they would see, and they would be having a little check mark as if, assessing the person before them. Well, she might be okay at working or doing really well or have a good history of very committed jobs, rarely sick, that kind of thing. But how she appears is not so good in this moment. I mean, just amazing emphasis on the appearance, which we all know. You know what that's like, right? Okay. So I leave the interview and I feel my anxiety hitting the roof, like with, I hate doing this. I don't want to work. Why do we have to work? Why is the world set up this way? I don't want to have a job. I can't do it. I can't. The insecurity was phenomenal. And of course, guess what I thought as I turned on the car engine? I have a drive of about half an hour from this place where I had the job interview to my parents' home, my childhood home, where I happen to be staying. And in between is a heavy, dense city, and there are all kinds of places to eat, all the way from here to there. No, I was not hungry. This was just total anxiety eating. And many times I can see myself having driven in a car all by myself, like it's this little tube container, going to drive-thrus, getting out and going into stores, stopping there and saying, oh, look at that place, I'll go in there, and acquiring the food and eating it with a vengeance, with a rebellion, with a anger, with an anxiety, having piles of wrappers on the front passenger seat of my car that I later on would get rid of. If anyone had ever seen me, I would have been embarrassed and ashamed beyond belief. But I began that dynamic as I drove out of the parking lot from that job interview. Got something to eat, stuffed my face, going through the drive-thrus, embarrassing, trying to act casual, as if this human being who I don't even know makes a difference or matters how they're seeing me. Like, I just didn't want to be seen as the monster I thought I was, of consuming. And after about 10 minutes, maybe stopping 2 or 3 places, feeling miserable, I pass. I see off in the distance on this main arterial road that I'm on a sign that says, Weight Watchers. I think, oh my God, it's a sign from the universe. I drive up to Weight Watchers. I pull into the parking lot. I park the car. I look in the window in the front entrance of Weight Watchers. It has some kind of sale that they're announcing. And I call my mother because I suddenly think, this is the answer. I'm signing up for Weight Watchers right now. It's the only thing that can stop me. This is the hope that I needed, and then I can move on and actually get a full-time job. I mean, isn't that funny? The logic. I can be stable enough if I just get into Weight Watchers. Then I can relax and settle down and do the next steps of the interview and see if I get this job offer and keep moving forward with what I'm supposed to be doing, which is working and earning a living. Call my mother. Mom, I need some money to sign up for Weight Watchers. They're having a sale. I'm in the parking lot. My mother says, no. Weight Watchers? I'm not signing you up for Weight Watchers. Believe me, she already knew I had been to therapy. I had basically dropped out of college because of having an eating disorder, these eating issues, disordered thinking, disordered feeling, disordered thoughts about feelings. All of that was going on. And she was very wise, even though she had had horrendous struggles herself about food and eating and knew of her own contribution to the kind of family system and felt anxious herself. But she said no. And I cried and I argued. And I said, but I really, really need this. I really, really need this. Just thought there was an answer. There's an answer. I'm going to sign up for a program and there will be an answer. In fact, really talking about this right now, I realize that sometimes people feel that way when they first sign up for the Eating Peace experience, the Eating Peace process that I've offered. There's going to be an answer. There is an answer. And in some ways, there is an answer. There's a day one. You're there. But of course, what I'm interested in is the thought system that's happening behind the behaviors around eating. So this was one of my patterns, is that I find an answer, and the answer is somebody telling me what to eat. And weighing in, watching a scale, having emphasis on the scale, having the focus be on weight loss, not on anxiety loss necessarily. That's not the number one. Not on why I'm doing this in the first place, why I pull into this parking lot and think it's the answer to all my problems, if I just get this under control. Not looking at that more deeply and carefully and with intention and with kindness. But my mother gave me an amazing no. It was really good that she gave me a no. And I was furious. I was mad enough that when I left that parking lot without being able to sign up on the sale for Weight Watchers, I was even more angry. And I believe, if I remember right, so long ago, that I ate more. I ate more on the way home. But I had had hope for a moment. But really, that's an interesting place to find hope, and where many of us have found hope. If I follow this ABC program, then I will be happy. And it doesn't mean not to follow a program. What I find interesting is, unlike any other programs that I've offered, or classes or courses with self-inquiry, looking at the mind, looking at what happens, investigating deeply. There's all the other topics that I've loved to work with, or solo work that people do in our lives together here. even though I've done all those, eating is the only one where people seem to post, hey, if you read X book by so and so author and get on this plan, that's the answer to this. And the whole orientation towards self-inquiry is looking, it's not eliminating all those kinds of answers, but those are the salve on the wound. You know, they're the structure offered that thinks I'm going to find the answer, but it doesn't really take away why I ever needed that in the first place. What is going on, what my beliefs are about myself and my appetite and my hunger or my fullness or my need for freedom or my desire for pleasure, my attitude about what thin people get in this world and what being overweight gets in this world. All those are worthy of inquiry, those deep investigating attitudes behind the scenes that creates the person who is having trouble with eating, who is off-balance eating in the first place. I found when I began to look at those, it didn't matter which plan I was on. I could definitely experiment with different foods, vegetarian, veganism, dropping dairy, skipping a meal for fasting, whatever the latest craze is. Nothing wrong with experimenting and learning and investigating any of those things, but they aren't the all-time answer to what was happening in the first place that put me where I was. And some of those beliefs that put me where I was were very, very old. They started when I was 6 and 7 and 8 years old. And they were incredibly stressful and incredibly oppositional. So they were like completely opposite beliefs were both being held as important at the same time. Like, I have to be thin, and therefore I have to restrict my food and control my eating, and I have to have freedom. And so therefore I want to eat whatever I want. And those didn't really go together. They fought each other. They were a war, an internal war. Everyone loves to find the answer, like, or even a set theory. Like, here's the theory, and it's just one theory, and that's the answer to all of it. I find just investigating with compassion and kindness is really where I wanted to go to understand, and who knows how the understanding is going to unfold. But I love that we have 4 questions and turnarounds as a tool to explore the trauma of having eating troubles. So I'm really appreciative and grateful for my mother for that no that day to stop that incessant craziness for having an answer be somewhere and having my own sense of who I was be awful, somebody that needs to be controlled, and to just question that in that moment. Luckily, I had somebody saying no. But I also, that matched something in my own heart. That no that my mother said to me was a no I also had in my own heart, which I don't know, like 5 days into Weight Watchers, I might have begun to feel the flip side, which was rebellion and misunderstanding and confusion about how I got to where I was in the first place, and the lack of freedom, and not being sure about being told what to eat, and measuring things, and constantly being concerned with size portion and calorie and units and points. And I wanted not to think about that stuff anymore. Probably would have driven me crazy. So I'm glad because that's not ultimately my true desire. My true desire was not to begin to fall into that kind of thinking. It was to see who I really was, what I really and truly wanted, and to find freedom in that, and gentleness and peace and compassion, and to not be addicted to the thoughts that the ideas and the beliefs that my mind is in charge of this and has to find an answer or find somebody to tell me what to eat. That's not the way fully and truly and completely out. What I really wanted all the way back then was to be done with this issue, but to understand it, to hold it lovingly and not say, I want to be done and I hate it. But wow, what an incredible learning. What a spiritual dilemma that I can actually find love in. Eating as a pathway or a doorway to unconditional love, unconditional understanding for the human mind and the human heart that I apparently am. Wow, this eating problem became a way into the world of spirit, what was far beyond eating. It was all showing up right there in the way and the flow and the feeling of eating and the roller coaster ride. Really, the way I ate at the time was the way I saw life and reality. And I know that through self-inquiry, we can question all of it and come to a peaceful understanding. Maybe not even an understanding, and we also can know that it's okay and that we're safe. All those things are just not necessary for anyone to tell me what to do or eat, or for there to be a set answer that is the end-all be-all. That's a control tactic. It's like much more understanding and gentleness around the whole experience of food and eating and the flow of it. And that all is very, very well indeed. So from that no from my mother, I got to stop that process. I really stopped. I think that was the last time I ever thought I'm going to try a special food plan. And I moved into what felt to me like the underlying core beliefs that were set up from long before that made me somebody desiring a food plan in the first place. And to question those and to understand it gave all the freedom in the world that I ever wanted. And I think I know anyone can do that. Because if I can, with all that confusion, anyone can. So that's what we're doing in Eating Peace. It's all about thinking peace, feeling peace, exploring, being with ourselves day to day as time passes, and with food in the world, and with reality, willing to be open to what's happening instead of believing that it shouldn't be happening the way it is. All right. Hope that helps in the big picture of eating peace. Lots of love.